All right, hey everyone, we're back for our 5th episode of the Pizza Hotline podcast. I want to welcome you all. Today we're going to be discussing technology and pizza and how that kind of ties into innovation and a little bit on disruption as well. But first, I just want to say it feels just like yesterday that we sat down to really just film our first podcast session. Like, how are you guys feeling about it so far? What do you think?
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think it's. I enjoy it. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
I hope our listeners and viewers are also feeling that there's a lot of benefit to this.
Yeah, for sure. Do you feel like you've kind of learned some new things along the way while doing this and in this whole experience of
Yeah,
podcasting?
every day you go. So when you sit and talk and about parts of your business, it gives you start reflecting on it and thinking about it in a different way, and you really don't have that opportunity unless you take the time and talk about it. So yeah, I think it's valuable, not just hopefully for our viewers, but I know it's valuable for us.
Right. So
Yeah.
it gives you a chance to kind of really sit down, even to listen to it yourself and be like, what are the things that we kind of talked about?
Yeah, and then after late night, you start thinking about what you said, and you go, "Oh, I should have said. I forgot this.
Yeah.
What about that? And what? But
Mhm.
it's good.
Yeah, I'm
It's all
sure
good.
there's going to be some part twos to some of the things
Yeah.
we talked about.
Exactly.
But even you get to see people actually listening to these or watching these and replying and sending us private messages and whatever and saying, "Oh, I like that, but could you go into more detail about that?" And
Right.
it gives us, it's a big help to us because we get to actually see what people want to hear about the business or about business in general, and then we get a chance to answer some questions and like he said, we get a chance to actually think about these questions and apply them to our own business, and we might find things that we're not happy with right now and we can change.
Right.
So, yeah, so far so good.
Yeah, and I guess kind of reflecting on the past 4 episodes that we've kind of recorded so far, are there any that you've kind of felt like it was one of your more favorite topics of discussions at all?
They're all good.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say I have a favorite
Mhm.
personally. I think they're all great.
Yeah, that's fair. So yeah, talking about technology and innovation and going into this topic here, if you can remember, what was the first piece of technology that you've been exposed to, and like really thinking about like your first impressions of that and like what was going through your mind?
Wow, technology in our business, in the restaurant business, it was like nothing changed for 10 years when I first started. 20 years, the first 20 years, it was nothing. And it was very slow. And recently, like the past few years, the pace and speed of change has just been incredible. As for my first, not sure,
Mhm.
I guess I'd have to say, is technology ovens? Would you consider
You could fall under that.
ovens technology,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
back in the day, you probably could more so than you would say that today.
Yeah. Mhm.
But back in the day, we went from our deck ovens to our conveyor ovens,
Right. Yeah.
and that was a big change. A conveyor oven was 10 times the cost
Mhm.
of a deck oven. Deck oven back then was $1,800, $2,000. And my first conveyor oven back in '87, I remember buying it, was $21,300 and something dollars.
Holy.
Yeah, and that was
Yeah.
a lot of money back
Yeah,
then.
yeah,
and,
definitely.
so that was probably the first move into what I considered high efficient, better quality product. It just helped.
Mhm.
The next would have been the telephone system,
Mhm.
our telephone system and our software that we adopted and had designed for us that can capture customer information, allow us to take orders centrally
Mhm.
in one center versus at stores. That was probably the next big change.
Mhm. Definitely. And Tony, what?
Well, yeah. So, I mean, you asked the first time we interacted with technology.
Yeah.
What was it like? I was born early 90s, so there was technology in everyday life was already there
Right.
much more prevalently than, you know, earlier generations would have experienced. So the first time I experienced technology was probably like the day I was born.
Mm-hmm.
But being born in the early 90s, I think you also got to see real transformational technology really start to take hold. So you saw, you know, the internet really find
Mhm.
a place. You saw the iPhone, you saw the iPod, you saw things like that that generations that came after me have grown up with like it's normal.
Yeah.
The way we would have grown up with certain things as if they were normal. So I don't know how to describe it other than it kind of comes, and like we've said in the past, on a smaller scale, with if it's the right ingredients for a new specialty pizza or the right, you know, ingredients for dough, when it comes, it seems like it should have always been there and everything just really clicks.
Right.
I feel like that's really the sign of transformational technology. It all of a sudden changes something in a way that feels like it's intuitive. So the iPhone or the iPod was there, you know, you never saw anything like it before, but when it hit, everyday people understood what it could do and understood maybe not all of what it could do, but they understood a place that it had for them. And I think going back to our industry, I think the pace has definitely increased. But I do think the restaurant industry, when you look at technology overall and then look at just restaurants, we are still laggards. And there's a lot that we can continue to innovate and continue to implement. When you look at, you know, the latest system-wide innovation in the restaurant industry was probably third-party delivery. That's nothing new. That's just kind of a patchwork of existing pieces of infrastructure, some in the restaurants, some outside.
Yeah.
Just kind of spun into a new idea. But I mean, FedEx has been around for how many years? Purolator's been around for how many years? It's not that different. So I think it's interesting to talk about technology in restaurants, because you can have one conversation about technology in our industry and major changes there. But when you look at the actual overarching picture, we're still behind in a lot of ways.
Yeah, we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's quite interesting. And it's funny because, like, personally for me, like, my first experience with like technology, I just remember growing up, there was a clear moment where my dad had this, I think it was a Windows 95 or Windows 98 system. I don't remember exactly which one it was, but I just remember booting it up, and the only thing I could do was like play checkers,
Yeah.
chess,
Right.
or Minesweeper.
Yeah.
And I played it so much to the point where I felt like, you know what? I'm a pro. I can go pro in this.
Yeah.
And I just remember that, and just being able to kind of interact with technology in that way, in that space. And then like later on, there was like other technology like gaming. Like my first console was like an N64, and just
Right.
being like going so wild over that because it's like
Oh,
something
yeah.
new to you, right?
Yeah,
And
the
it's
Game
just-
Boy Color would
Yeah.
blow my mind. And
Yeah.
You know,
When I was
in
younger.
business, in our business, you know, when I made a decision to buy a software or a new technology, I could take my time. I could take 5 months, 6 months, 8 months, and nothing would have really changed. So it was easier back then because you could really search, understand, deep dive, and before making a purchase. Today, I'm struggling because I find it's harder because there's no time. I go to, there's a new software out. For example, it could be a front of a house POS system, and you look at it and you just know that if I pull the trigger on this, in next month there'll be another one that could be better. That most likely will be better. In the month after, the speed of change is just incredible.
Yeah.
And waiting 6 months, it's like what's the word? You're in shock, and it's hard to pull the trigger because it's kind of like you want the best, but the best keeps getting better. So by the time you make the purchase nowadays, it's already old. So anything you're purchasing today is old. Back in the day, you made the purchase and you could get 10 years out of it. So technology and how it changes your business is incredible, but it's very difficult to make the right buy today.
Yeah, you really got to stay at the cutting edge of the trends and at what's available in your industry. And I think you need to really forge strong relationships with people in those fields. I think that's why we've been able to be okay through a lot of the technological disruptions that have happened in food. Because what my dad's saying was very much the old style technology game was, you'd go to a trade show, anybody who had a system worth showing off would be at that trade show, and those systems would last 5, 10, 15
Right.
years before a new significant innovation happened. So, and the prices were also designed in such a way that you should be doing serious homework because you bought the system, and it would be X amount of thousands of dollars to buy that system, and then there would be maybe a servicing attachment to that. Whereas today it's all software as a service, like it's month to month, right? So sign up, low barrier, just sign up for this amount this month, and you can cancel at any time. So back then you would go down, if you were looking for a POS, there'd be a section of the trade show for POSs. You'd go, you'd grill every POS company, you'd find the one that suited your needs closest, and then you'd start a 6 month to a year engagement process. And like you said, you'd have 5, 10 years of strategic advantage now because you launched that system.
Right.
Whereas today, if you're waiting to get to a trade show, you're already behind the mark. And like you said, if you spend a couple months looking into a system for a specific set of criteria, there's a good chance that by the time you roll it out, there's a better selection somewhere else out there. So you can some people try to take the approach of custom developing everything, which I think is really difficult for a lot of obvious reasons, but also for the reason of time. So your personal time, if you're gonna hire a team of developers and you're gonna develop your own software in-house, you need to project manage those devs. You need to run essentially that company developing software for your other company. And the lead times in development, again, kind of puts you behind in that race. So what we've done is we've been able to keep good relationships with a lot of our strategic development partners, which allows us to have open conversations as often as either side needs to say, hey, this is something we see coming down the pipeline in what's POS. Can we build this? Can you guys add this to your systems, and what will it look like? So it allows you to move faster, and it allows you to stay more ahead of the pack than if you're just waiting to go to that next trade show or see that next newsletter come out. It's really hard to differentiate yourself technologically if you're using the same channels that everybody else is using today.
Right. How often do you guys go to these trade shows?
Trade shows aren't what they used to be because of the speed of change,
Right.
because of technology itself. Yeah, Google, and you can find anything. So the value of trade shows is no longer what it once was. Once upon a time, you'd go to a trade show and everything new would be launched at the show.
Right.
So there'd be real value in going down, and you want cutting edge, that's where you would go and you would find it. But this was before the internet. Now, nothing is really launched new at a trade show.
At least in our industry.
In our industry,
okay,
yeah. In our industry, and it's all, once you're connected to associations, food associations, everything flows quickly, and it's in real time. It's in much more real time. So the value of trade shows is not what it once was.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, we still go, I think, often, especially to the larger trade shows.
Which ones?
But a lot of it is relationships. So I've got relationships with a lot of vendors.
Yeah.
Going back 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. So a lot of, for me now, when I go down, a lot of it is it's all about the relationship and, sitting down and having a conversation and versus what's new, right? Sometimes it's good to stay connected, face to face.
Yeah.
And there's many shows. Canada has in the restaurant business, they have a Canadian, what did they call it? The
CFA.
CFA.
The CFA and the IFA are two good shows. The NRA show in Chicago, not the Rifles.
Right, not
the
the
Restaurant
rifle.
Association.
Yeah.
I get weird looks from customs every time I see them
Right.
going down for the NRA show.
Yeah.
But the thing is, to add on to his point about the networking, the other thing that I get value out of when I go is you do still see a pulse of where most of the restaurant industry's at in regards to certain topics.
Yes.
So what is the restaurant industry's take on third-party delivery? What is the restaurant industry's take on different trends like gluten-free
Yeah.
or
Thin crust, thick crust.
Exactly. So you go to these panel sessions, you hear the experts share their opinion. A lot of the time, to be completely honest, we find that their opinions are a little bit dated. So
And
their
biased.
opinion on third-party delivery is probably not what their ultimate opinion is going to be.
Right.
But you can still use it as an opportunity to gauge where people are at, and then look at your own company and go, are we still ahead of the pack here? Or if I learned something new at a trade show, I am definitely not ahead of the pack on that theme, because whatever they're saying are, again,
It's a
things that
reflection of the past 6 months. a year.
exactly. So if you're looking, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years forward, and you go to a trade show and you go, oh, I didn't think about it that way, or that really made sense, and that's new to me, that tells you something about your strategic positioning for your business. So we like to go sit in those panels and, again, just see, hopefully what you want to see is that what they're saying makes sense to your analysis a few months ago or a few years ago. And you want to see that you've moved past that in some way. And then more than anything, it's just a confidence booster that you're setting up, again, your strategic positioning well.
Back in the day, a trade show, for example, would have 100,000 visitors. Today, that same trade show, 30,000 visitors.
Mhm.
So even, participation has gotten less and less. Again, because of the internet. People don't need to be there to be plugged in.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And I guess one other question I kind of had was there one trade show that you've attended and you found a piece of technology and said, like, hey, this is it, this is what we need? Was there ever a moment that kind of happened?
Well, a lot of when it comes to technology is, as Antonio said, like you're taking something, and in our case in particular, it's been a lot of development. So over the years, our software has evolved, and we've led the development of that. So is there one that really stands out in my mind? I'd have to say no.
Mm-hmm.
Truthfully,
Yeah.
it's hard. Technology at trade shows, for example, POS systems. A lot of them don't even go to those shows anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to find what you're looking for that way. I have much more success online
Mm-hmm.
for whatever it is I'm looking for
Right.
than I do when I go down to the shows.
Yeah.
I guess the only good show, really, if I had to pick one today, is probably call center.
But so he's touching on something that I think is important for the for the listeners,
Yeah.
And viewers to know. We're a very specialized industry in terms of the technology that we use and the technology that we need, and we're looking specifically for enterprise as well. So we get a
Right.
lot less value out of walking a trade floor than a new business owner would get. So if you're a new restaurateur,
Mm-hmm.
you can walk through the NRA show in Chicago and go from one side to the other. There's something like 12,000 booths, and you
Wow.
can fully design your restaurant.
Yeah.
And you can get your menu, you can get your smallwares, you can get your aesthetic, everything.
Mm-hmm.
We don't use those services anymore because we need a more sophisticated and a more tailored offering than a lot of those exhibitors are going to be able to provide for us. So for us, again, when we go to the shows, it's more, let's keep a pulse of where everyone else is at. And then and to your question, have we ever looked, gone in and gone, wow, we need that software.
Mm-hmm.
I've never gone in and actually made a deal at a trade show, which most people do. But what I will do is go, there's 3 or 4 companies out of this 12,000 that are testing this new thing. I'm going to go home and research this now.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a trend that I want to roll into my strategic plan. So a few years back, that might have been digital menu boards. That might have been certain facets of artificial intelligence, certain store signage. It could be anything, but what we really get the value out of, again, is walking through that show and going, oh, what they're doing is cool. Chances of it actually matching up with our systems, very slim, but what they're doing is cool. Let's go back and think about how we can take something like that and integrate it into our systems.
Right.
The call center show, the reason why that one's more valuable for us is because I think call center technology is more robust and transferable across call centers. So if you find a customer relationship management tool, it's reasonably easy to integrate that into your systems and launch it. So we get a lot of value purely from the buying side out of that show. Whereas, again, it's more industry insights and positioning stuff from the restaurant shows. But if you're asking the question of, what would a new restaurateur get out of these shows, that's an entirely different question. We're happy to talk about it if you want.
Right. Yeah, because I feel like if you are like you're new and fresh into the business or like into the industry, specifically like this one, I feel like you can get some value out of these trade shows and find what you need and be able to build that and plan ahead.
You know, I'll tell you what I do nowadays.
Yeah.
If you go on the website, let's say the NRA, let's say you're looking for menus, search menu, up comes 10 different companies.
Yeah, save the couple $1,000.
That's what I do.
And just research it.
Yeah.
And
so you don't have to be there. It's actually easier and more efficient that way.
Yeah.
Right? So because because of technology, everything is online.
Yeah.
So if I'm looking for a menu, I'll go to the NRA show, as Antonio said. That's the largest restaurant show that there is in the US, and search what my needs are. And up comes all the different companies, and you go click, you see their website, and away you go. Even when you go to the shows today, what's changed a lot is in the past, they'd have much more, they'd have their full product suite there.
Yeah.
So you can see everything. Now you go and they don't bring everything with them because they put everything on the web. So what are you really getting out of that? You might as well just go click on the web, and you'll see what you're going to see there with a lot less effort. So unless you're getting something else out of that deal at the trade show, like relationships, I'm not sure if the values they're the same.
I think too, it depends on your personality for that. Like some people, we're both very similar. If we want to research, it'll typically be lock yourself in a room for a couple hours, pull up every window and just start going through.
Yeah.
You do have the value at a trade show of there's one row with everybody there, and you can, if you're looking for plates for your restaurant, you can pick up every plate. You can physically look at every plate. If you're testing Italian sausage, you can sample their Italian sausage right there. So there's a value to a certain type of person, but the pro tip that he said that I would definitely reinforce is if you don't have the funds, because they can be quite expensive to go to these shows, or you don't have the time to block out to actually make it to Chicago or Vegas or wherever else, you get pretty close to the same value for just going online, looking at their publicly accessible exhibitor list and visiting those websites and making those connections that way.
Right.
It's again, what do you want to do, and
you have
the
to be
nature of
smart
what you're
about
looking for.
Yeah.
You know, another point to consider. I've gone to a lot of trade shows, and you go to a U.S. show, you say you're from Winnipeg. Oh, sorry, we don't have distribution up there.
Yeah.
Right.
So
That happens a lot.
a lot. So if you're looking for product for food, you're probably better off just working through your distributor, or hitting the Canadian show. I've lost
the CFA show.
No, not the CFA. That's no.
The Canadian
Restaurant Show. There's a Canadian restaurant show that's held once a year. You're probably better off there than going to any U.S. show.
Right.
Because they have distribution channels across the country. They can get the food to you one way or the other. They can get all the services are lined up. It's a smaller show, but there may be more value because it's relevant to your business. You go down to the US, is this available in Canada? It's really frustrating. Oh yeah, the sales guy on the floor. Oh yeah, we'll get our sales guy to get back to you. Then they get back to you 4 months later, and then it's, oh sorry, we don't carry that product in Canada, or that pepperoni has certain ingredients in it that's not that makes it, we can't get it into the Canadian, get it across the border into Canada. So you get a lot of issues like that. It's a challenge. U.S. trade shows are a challenge because of that. The products, they don't service Canada right now very well. So stick to Canadian if you can.
Barriers are coming down for sure in certain areas, but I mean, the trade war taught, like we had a couple products lined up that we were really excited about launching, and then trade war and now you can't bring it in. There's too much uncertainty. You don't know what your costs are going to end up being, so you got to be somewhat careful about that. But for looking at actual food and supply chain, I think he's right. Your best bet is go to your local shows, because anybody that's there can service your local community. So I know like the Manitoba Restaurant Association does a show every year. They bring down distributors, they bring down suppliers. That's very high value for someone who's starting up in the business. Or the Canadian shows, typically out of Toronto. Those can also be very high value. If you're looking for tech and you're looking for the best source of high level trend analysis, there's nothing like getting down to the big American shows. But it's what's going to give you the most value at this point in your restaurant, right?
True. And I feel like it's very important that, businesses nowadays that they really do their research ahead of time and be able to like see why these pieces of technology are important to them as well, especially in this industry that we are kind of in.
Well, you bring up a good point. There's a lot of, one thing I've noticed, and you can probably speak to this too, is that there's a lot of redundant technology available in our industry, and you can very easily get lost in it. We kind of talked about this I think it was our last podcast before, when we were talking about customer experience and how it can very quickly become just data. You can go, if you go to the NRA show and you're looking at POSs, there's 300 POS providers there, and they're all special and they're all different and they're all your best offering, and they're all going to turn your business into a massive entity. None of them actually do it. So your point is probably the most important thing. You got to come in with a game plan here. Even if your game plan is just, I'm just going to go see, you need to know what you want to get out of that show. Because otherwise you can really just get drowned in things. And like he said, you can start talking to 400 different pepperoni suppliers to find out at the end of a 2-year process that none of them can deliver to Canada, right? So you got to pick your selection criteria earlier, probably before you get there. And then that gives you the ability to really go fast through those concessions. So if we're looking for a system, I might spend a minute and a half at each booth, and I'll just walk up. Hi, how are you? My name's Antonio. I'm from Winnipeg. Can you service Winnipeg? Yes or no? Yeah. If I get a wishy-washy, yeah, maybe, I think it's possible, that's a no.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Go to the next booth, right? So if you can be decisive, you can play a volume game, you increase your odds of actually getting something useful. But if you're going in and just going, oh, tell me about this, they're going to tell you about that for the next 4 hours, and it might not be what you needed.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Your approach has to, again, you got to really, you got to come in with the game plan.
Yeah. Because if you don't, then you're just going to be walking around in circles, listening to a bunch of stuff that you don't need to hear.
And those floors are designed for you to walk around in circles. Like we lose each other. We'll be walking down one column, and he'll see something to the left, I'll see something to the right, and 20 minutes later you find each other again. And we might have only been 20, 30 feet apart. They're designed to keep you in and to keep you wandering.
Right.
It's like a big department store where like one item's over here and then another item's over here through the maze of other clothes. They're trying to trap you. So
the black holes.
Yeah.
You'll just see something shiny and it's just like, I need to go there.
Yeah.
And then once you're in, can't get out.
Everybody's got food samples and drink samples, and my favorite is, and I'm sure you've got this before too, but you'll be walking and you'll be in like San Diego, and someone will look at your badge and go, "Oh, Pizza Hotline, I've heard of you."
Yeah.
Where do I know you from? And you're like, you don't. You're just a sales guy
cheesy.
who's just
Yeah.
trying to get me to commit to a conversation
Yes.
now.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
as a Canadian, of course, you don't want to be rude. So you're
Mhm.
like, oh, I don't think we know each. Well, tell me about yourself. What do you do? And now,
Yeah.
now
And
you're
now
stuck.
Now you're locked.
Now you're in. They got you.
So I wear my AirPods when I walk. So
Yeah.
they're not playing anything, but
Yeah.
at least if I get one of those like really obvious, I'm just trying to hook you in here,
Mhm.
I can just pretend like I'm listening to music and
Yeah.
keep walking. So
Yeah. One of the side benefits of technology. Is that.
Yeah, exactly.
I've done it long enough. I just keep walking.
Yeah, he just walks.
I just walk.
Hey, how are you?
Just keep walking. I'm done because I want to
Blinders
get.
are on.
I want to get in and get out.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Definitely.
and just keep walking.
Definitely. For sure.
But yeah, so that's 2 pro tips if you're going to trade shows.
Yeah.
Go in with a game plan.
And keep
Wear
walking.
AirPods
Or
wear
keep
some
walking.
comfortable shoes.
Yeah. Yeah. True. I do want to ask, if you have, let's say you have a new piece of technology, right? And you're really excited about it and you know that it'll be transformative for your business. So how would you integrate it in a way that, gets everyone else kind of on board and kind of realizing like this is happening, this is taking place, and like being able to,
I think you'd incubate it first,
Mhm.
run some tests,
yeah.
right? Get it into the hands of a good, good people,
Mhm.
good operator, good manager, good employees, and you just let it spread from there.
Mhm.
Baby steps,
Right.
not all
Yeah.
at once.
Yeah, definitely the baby steps. We have, I think, as a company in our model, we have, I would consider us very high trust. And what I mean by that is if we roll out something to our franchisees have a lot of trust that we've done our due diligence and that this is going to work for them. And I think we certainly have higher trust than most other brands would have. But even in our environment, we have to always remind ourselves to take it slower, to really make sure that everybody gets a chance to look at this thing. Everybody gets a chance to offer their opinions and gain that buy-in, right? A lot of companies, you'll go to the show, you'll get super excited about this new tech, and you come back and you sign the deal and they roll it out, and the company's all too happy for you to rush through that process, right? Because
Yeah.
as soon as you're signed up, you get the check.
Yeah.
And then it comes back to actually putting it in the hands of the people who need to use it day to day. And at worst, they don't like it, they don't want to use it, and they don't use it. At best, they want to use it, but they've never been trained, they haven't seen it, they haven't had a chance to get familiar with it.
Mhm.
So you have to really take it slow, have all of the kind of stakeholders in that technology in the room, and give people an opportunity to test it and feel good about it before
Yeah.
it launches. Because what you don't want to happen is you don't want to launch just like a menu item. If you don't give people an opportunity to learn the recipes, and then an opportunity to make those recipes, and then an opportunity to get very comfortable making those recipes, you don't want to launch that item. Tech's the exact same.
Mhm. For sure. Because then I definitely I do believe that if you're trying to introduce something new, it's like don't shove it down someone's throat. Give them the chance to really digest and
Yeah.
take in all that information and really kind of
Yeah.
dissolve it.
Yeah.
But on an enterprise level, I agree with that.
Mhm.
The larger you get, the harder that
Yeah.
is to just say that.
Granted, yeah.
So what ends up happening is you do that, and there's a group of people who appreciate and use that time well and actually learn.
Mhm.
There's another group of individuals that just don't like change, especially technology. They're not comfortable with it.
Yeah.
So you got to really push hard, and you have to have concrete deadlines in place where they need to adopt it, and but you'll graduate the deadlines, right?
Yeah.
You'll stagger them, and because change is very difficult, especially in a fast-paced environment where habits have been formed for years. Now you're asking them to adopt this new technology, and it's going to be the cat's meow. Well, but it's still hard for some people.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's not easy.
I think you have to be transparent. Well, at the very beginning, you need to be around like-minded individuals. So what he's talking about there's like that classic that graph of how people adopt technology, right? And there's the early adopters, there's the I can't remember the names, but there's the people that come after the very early adopters, and then there's always the laggards, the people that there are people today that don't use an iPhone and don't want to use an iPhone, right? That's a laggard for the iPhone. And in your business, you're going to have laggards in something somewhere as well. So I think, one, you need to be around people who understand if your value, like one of our values in our company is adoption of new technologies and new innovations when and where they come. So our franchisees understand that by signing up with Pizza Hotline, they're signing up with a brand that is going to change things as soon as we think they need to be changed. We're not a slower to change brand like some other pizza players where they might not change a delivery system for 15 years because it works well enough for us to. That's not who we are, and that shouldn't be who you are if you're going to like working with our company. So if you don't have like-minded individuals around, you'll have a lot more laggards in everything you try to do. And then to his other point, you also need to realize that sometimes you can't make everyone happy in the short term to make everybody happy in the long term. So we've had franchisees in the past that, fought us tooth and nail on certain changes.
Right.
And the changes get rolled out because the buy-in processes have still happened. We've done the testing and the development phases, and the majority like it, and the majority understand that it will add value. And our pilot tests show that it adds value. But you have one franchisee that doesn't like doing X, and they still tell you, I don't like this, I don't want to use it. And those are the people that you have to kind of say, listen, by this date, this is a brand standard. You have to roll it out.
Yeah.
And if you don't, we have to have follow-up conversations. And typically what happens is they use it and they do see the value, but they just do it on their schedule. Right. So that's something that I think you find more as you grow a business. Like, again, to anybody listening that is maybe at that 3, 4, 5 store level and is looking to grow and get more franchisees, the differing of opinions will be something you have to deal with. And with technology, I think it brings out a lot of people's insecurities that much faster.
Yeah.
Because tech is inherently scary to some people.
Yeah.
And you just have to treat it like anything else. It's communication. You have to be open. You have to be transparent. And as the franchisor, you have to stick to your convictions if you know that something's going to add value. And I think you talked about it in a previous podcast. Your role is to protect the brand. Protecting the brand doesn't always mean, okay, somebody's stealing, kick them out. Protecting the brand can sometimes be you have a franchisee who's scared of a change that you know is in the best interests of everybody, and you have to bring them along. You have to protect everybody else by, telling that one franchisee that this is for the best and you should do it. So it becomes more a communication and again, the relationship that you have with your team. We have, like I said before, high trust. So when franchisees are trepid or scared, they usually just call one of us, or usually both of us if they're really scared. And you reassure them that we've done the research, that this is something that's going to work, and they roll it out. But you have to play the slow game with that, and you have to slowly build that trust over years and years and years with your team.
Definitely. Are there any ways that you see technology will kind of be disruptive within, let's say, the pizza industry or just the restaurant industry as a whole? For example, like, let's say, just throwing it out there, like automated robots, like even if them making like pizzas.
Well, there's already automated robots out there that's being tested. And, I'm not necessarily sure. Here's what you're going to get. You're going to get the pie will get sliced thinner and thinner. Yeah. So there's going to be some people that use automated robots, some businesses that decide to use that in the future. And they will appeal to a certain demographic, a certain consumer. You're going to have others who go, I want to speak with a human, and I want to see my toppings, and I want it done in front of me. Well, they don't want to see a robotic arm, throwing pepperoni on that pizza. It just doesn't look appetizing. It just doesn't feel right. So there's going to be some changes, but at the end of the day, it's all about the customer experience. McDonald's, for example, they've reconfigured some of their kitchens. So what they're doing is they're hiding their kitchens more
Okay.
in preparation for robotic arms.
Right.
So the new layouts, you'll find smaller front counter, less visible kitchens, and they're getting ready for that.
Yeah.
They just don't think the consumer is ready for it yet.
Mhm.
Yeah, McDonald's is a really good example for technology.
Yeah.
I was at a trade show a couple of years ago, and there was an ex-VP of operations at McDonald's, and he said at that point, we have our kitchens fully spec'd out for robotic automation
Wow.
right now. Every
Wow.
position can be replaced. We're just waiting for costs to come down a little bit, and we will start to do it.
Mhm.
McDonald's very much takes the approach of technology is going to disrupt and replace everything, so let's get ahead of it. So
Yeah.
you notice menu boards.
Yeah.
When McDonald's launched their, or sorry, not menu boards, ordering kiosks.
Yeah.
When McDonald's launched their digital ordering kiosks, people hated it. Their use rate was like less than 1%. And they got some flack in the industry for rolling this technology out. And the question was, you're making your franchisees pay all this money for these digital ordering kiosks, and people don't like them. Why are you doing this? And their answer was, maybe for the next 10 years, people won't like them. But after that, everyone's going to use them. So
Yeah.
they're thinking on a much longer time horizon, and they're setting themselves up to take advantage of tech as soon as it becomes accepted. So to his point on the smaller counters, the more closed off kitchens, that's the kind of the intermediate play that you make now, so that when you do replace the people in your kitchen, nobody notices. You can do it that much faster.
Yeah.
So that's their approach. You have companies like Chick-fil-A that got rid of mobile or digital ordering kiosks in their stores because they wanted to focus on the personal side of their business.
Yeah.
So I think, to answer your question, where does technology go? Is it going to disrupt? Technology is going to disrupt absolutely every part of our business at one point or another.
Right.
But people have the decision that they need to make of, do we want this disruption or
Right.
don't we? Tech it moves so fast in so many different ways. We're already seeing redundancy in technology. You're going to have a system that, Pizza Hotline could probably put in a robotic arm that makes the pizzas, but do we want to do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
If our game is we want to be the cheapest pizza out there and we're going to close off our kitchens and you're never going to see us, we're going to make ghost kitchens, then sure, put the robotic arm. But if there's an element of personality to your brand, you're going to have to think very carefully about, is this something you want to do? Do you want to be an employer of people, or do you want to be an operator of systems,
Mhm.
right? I think it's an interesting time because of that.
Yeah. And it's just, even just looking ahead, it's like there's so much uncertainty that follow technology, because there's so many things that it can change and can transform. Because the way that I see it right now, it's like at the rate that it is advancing, like we were talking about, like what was new now 6 months later probably could be irrelevant, right? And so it really does change our whole infrastructure of like how the world is going to work and how it's going to be. It's gonna flip it upside down. It's gonna make things feel like as if we're like the things like we have right now. It's gonna, like in a few years, it'll feel like we have pagers in MySpace. We're back in that area,
Right.
And so it's just like,
We're going to become the Jetsons.
yeah, exactly.
That's what we're going to become.
And so it's always like asking that question now is like, can we ever really be ready for disruption, or are we going to make the decision just to adapt?
Well, I think restaurateurs in general do a pretty poor job of being ready for disruption.
Mhm.
And I think if you look at where our industry's at right now and where technology's taking the industry, it's not taking it in a good place. The biggest examples are, you look at third-party delivery, right? That is absolutely only harmful to most restaurants,
Right.
and they don't understand it, and they've been swept up in the need to keep up, and they're basically giving away their customers and paying someone to take them away from them. What does that do to an industry 10, 15 years down the road?
Right.
It's up to, it's speculation, but to me, it certainly doesn't look good.
Mhm.
And restaurateurs, again, just don't understand what they're signing up for. So I think the industry in general has to get more serious about thinking about technology and think about the implications of rolling out technology, right? For example, if a robotic arm comes out that can automate a line cook in a kitchen and everybody starts using it, well, where does the power in the restaurant industry now reside? Does the restaurant owner really have control? Or if everybody's using one supplier, the way everybody uses one delivery partner or 2 or 3 delivery partners, who's really holding the cards now in your business, right? And I think restaurateurs really need to step up when it comes to challenging the companies that they work with to be more transparent with them, because there's a lot of bad deals happening right now that will only get worse for the restaurants.
Yeah, definitely. I had a question here. Do you feel that it's like very imperative that as a business owner that you're able to adapt to these changes and these new innovations that are just kind of coming through into this industry?
You got to stay ahead of them.
Yeah.
You can't just adapt.
Yeah.
But you don't have to race to be the leader either, right? Sometimes it's good to be second, because the first pays a big price. So,
Yeah, but there's a strategy to being second.
right.
To just say, "Oh, this is coming down the pipeline now. Give
I
it to me."
have to do it. No,
Again, the third-party delivery approach. Oh, my neighbor's on Skip the Dishes. I need to be on Skip the Dishes. Wrong approach.
Yeah.
It's one thing to see something coming down the pipeline and say, do I want to be first out the gate with this? Do I want to wait and see how it unfolds and be second? Or do I want to just never roll it out?
right.
That's what I mean by staying ahead of that curve.
Yeah.
Looking at what's coming down and going, how does this make sense for me? As opposed to what's happening a lot with technology now. Everybody just feels this need, this emotional need as a business owner to sign up for these things. And a lot of the time, the fine print isn't really helping them.
No.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like, and the more that we kind of talk about like just technology in general being implemented into businesses and just these innovations, it's like sometimes I even think that there's just some things that automation and like this type of technology just can't replace it from the human factor of, interactivity. Because
It can't replace personality,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
There's nothing that you can do there, and I don't know. I think in time, as Antonio said, every part of our business will be affected by technology. It's just what is the consumer willing to accept and when, right?
Yeah.
And then you have to look at if you're in the restaurant business, what kind of a restaurant am I in, and what do my customers really want? And if you're in fine dining, well, I don't want a robot, and I don't want to know that a robot is making my food, because I'm paying extra for quality. So I want to know that the pasta is handmade or the veal is hand cut, and right?
Yeah.
It depends on your model. Depends what you're trying to
achieve.
What you're trying to achieve. Yeah.
Exactly.
And there's a fit. There's always a fit.
One thing I do want to ask, getting into nearing the closing of this, but what questions should businesses in the pizza industry, or even just in general, like what should we be asking ourselves in order to be better prepared and to better adapt to the disruption from technology?
Well, there's a lot of ways to answer that question. I think business owners or people should try to just have some sort of a pulse on technology. That's extremely difficult because everything is getting innovated with tech, but focus on the areas that matter to you. If you're in the restaurant industry, try to keep up with changes in restaurant technologies. Even again, any level of understanding is better than no level of understanding. So even if it's just one trend that you're able to follow it, right? It's like people talk about what's the best advice for investing in the stock market. It's just read the newspaper every day, right? Just get a general pulse on where things are moving. So I would say that's important. Always dilute your decisions back to, is this truly beneficial to my customers or my employees or myself in this business, and why? If you can't answer it in a basic way, it's probably not as beneficial as you thought it was going to be. And don't let your emotions kind of guide your objective analysis of that fit. So if you're signing up for a third-party delivery partner, it shouldn't matter that the other restaurants down the street have success. It shouldn't matter that your friend told you they always order from that place. It has to make sense to you, and the details in that contract have to line up with your business. Otherwise, the relationship's not what you want it to be. So that's what I would say.
Do you feel that your company has to have, a fine balance of how much technology you can automate and run with the business, and how much of it do you have to be involved in finding that balance between you operating and also having technology operate your business?
I think for us, what we always try to do is we try to find technology that lets our people do more innovation. So in everybody's job and in everybody's day, there's a certain amount of what you do that is just mundane, repetitive task, and it sets you up to be able to innovate. So in a lot of jobs, that means I have to pull these reports and then put them together and then look at them and then make my recommendations on them. So we try to find the technology that will take those reports and already put them together for you and maybe give you some of the high level recommendations, but best set you up to get to the innovation stage faster. Right. So and this is just our philosophy. Some businesses like McDonald's wants to automate everything. That's their goal. Our goal is more to empower people to have higher impact on a per person basis. Just because that's what we think is the right thing to do. And that's how we structured our business. There's really no right or wrong answer to that, though.
True, definitely. And so I guess, do you see it, technology being as more supplemental than it is disruptive, or is it?
No, it can be both. I think.
Absolutely.
I think a good disruptor in our industry is something that allows one person to have an exponentially greater impact on the success of that organization.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely. Yeah, because the more that you see it, if we don't have that kind of disruption, it's like nothing in the industry will kind of grow. It'll have because you need to have kind of innovations happening all the time,
and it's happening all the time, and it's happening faster and faster.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, and so just looking at that and looking at that pace, and
just
looking at the overarching daunting picture of it.
It's pretty daunting if you really, but you have to resign to the fact and be comfortable that you can't know it all. You just have to focus and know your business first. Concentrate on your business, and then find how technology can help you improve your business.
Right.
Whether it's better customer service, better quality of life for you as an owner or your employees, it has to serve a purpose.
Yeah, that's probably the most important piece to all of this, I think, is know your business first.
Right.
Know who you are. Know what makes your company special. Know what makes your company different. And then find technology that enhances that.
Exactly.
Too many people, again, it's the same thing as when you go into the trade show, have your criteria. If you go into tech, just like I want to find all the things that are cool, and that's going to make my business special.
Well, you might as well make a robot.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
You'll get drowned in the details so quick. You'll never actually translate into true innovation. But if you know, this is my business, this is what we do, this is why customers come back, this is why our employees like working for us, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you scan technology. Every once in a while, you'll find something that comes across, your desk that goes, wow, this would make my employees that much happier, or this would make my feedback loops that much stronger with customers. This would make my product that much more consistent. Then it makes sense.
Right.
But you really have to know what you are.
You got to be good at your business first.
Yeah,
exactly. Make sure you have a clear defined purpose and vision and a goal for what your business is and what you want to achieve out of it. And then just find technology can just be the supplementing factor that you need. And so that's all it is.
And sometimes it's just saves you aggravation. Sometimes it'll save you a buck. Sometimes it offers better customer service. And sometimes it's really disruptive.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's all good.
Yeah, definitely. And so, whenever we get to talk about this kind of topic just like this, it always, my blood gets kind of pumped because it's really exciting. Technology, there's so much that we can tackle and dive deeper.
It's exciting, but scary.
Yeah, exactly. It's
right?
like
Both at the same time.
looking at a vast ocean. Like
Right.
I'm a huge scaredy cat. Like I hate being out in the open ocean like that. Like just not knowing what's like underneath there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
and-
we said last
yeah.
time, I think, when we were talking about what makes a good franchisor, what makes a good franchisee, and I think the ability, you know, it's exciting, but it's also scary. That's something you should probably ask yourself if you're in charge of people, and if you're running an organization, you're looking to grow that organization. Do you have an appetite to be able to differentiate between the exciting and the scary? Because if you can't, if everything's scary to you, you shouldn't lead that organization.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
You need to be able to jump in and with a clear head.
Yeah.
And chart that course
Exactly.
for your team.
For sure, definitely. You got to lead the way so that everyone who's following, they feel reassured. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's like just really tying into this whole thing of technology and being able to gain that added edge to your business, and just to kind of stay ahead of the curve and be relevant, be present in the current time that we kind of live in right now. And who knows, maybe we'll get to a point where maybe there'll be drones that are delivering pizzas or something. I don't know.
I'm sure that's
so
going to
many-
come.
There's so many different kind of possibilities
Absolutely.
that we'll get to in this industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
So-
drones will be making pizzas
Yeah.
and delivering them at the same time.
Yeah. So
Who knows?
Who knows?
Well, you've got trucks that do that right now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Automated delivery trucks that cook your pizza, robotically cook your pizza
Mhm.
on the route over.
Yeah.
Again, you're going to be presented with, imagine if this happened. If that's not already happening, that will happen. The question we're going to need to ask ourselves is, do we want that to happen?
Yeah.
And are we willing to pay for that?
Yeah.
As a customer, do I want a person to make my pizza, or do I want a machine to drive it over and cook it?
Right. Exactly. So, so this topic has been very informative. I feel like we hit so many different kind of points, and coming from everything technology and finding it in, like, trade shows, part of the industry and stuff like that, and being able to talk about disruption here in our industry, but also overarching in general as well. And just trying to find ways to be prepared and to look ahead and really find ways where technology can work with what we have. So guys, I just want to thank you for your time, and I want to thank everyone else that is actually listening in right now for being part of this experience and part of this podcast. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. What do you comments on technology and how you think it might affect maybe the industries that you're in, right? Because we'd love to know that too, because I feel like some of that information can be cross-referenced and be valuable in that way as well. So guys, take care, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.
See you again.
Take care.